Today, I'm going to go over the 3 key areas that have helped me reverse years of chronic pain and injury to be able to perform pretty much however I want without feeling limited. This video is going to be really valuable to you if you just want to squeeze more juice out of yourself and push your performance limits in a sustainable way. If you're new to the channel, my name's Stefan and I help former athletes achieve their peak performance by rebuilding their foundation. You guys ready to get straight into it? All right, as lifelong athletes, we're no strangers to pushing past physical limits. But the reality is that grinding through pain, injuries, and just general fatigue the way many of us did comes with its consequences. For me and a lot of the athletes I work with, it's led to postural issues and general imbalance throughout the body. Things like tight hip flexors, restricted shoulder motion, knee or low back pain, these are all signs that your foundation is just a little off. In the past, I've made the brutal mistake of trying to add fitness and athleticism on top of a poor foundation. And sometimes it led to performance gains in the short term, but I just knew that it wasn't sustainable in the long run. I realized that my athletic prowess had been built on a poor foundation, kind of like a souped up engine on a fragile chassis. I had to learn the hard way through some injuries that came at inopportune times, but nonetheless, after college, I finally understood that I needed to completely rebuild my foundation if I were to continue training and competing the way that I'd wanted to. So here are the 3 areas I religiously honed in on. The first one is awareness, because as athletes, we've had a tendency to numb ourselves to pain and other body signals that we may have perceived as limiting in the past. So we actually need to reteach ourselves to listen to what our bodies are saying and really lean into things like pain, tightness, and whatever else we may have been ignoring so that we can get to the bottom of it. Awareness is the precursor to control. Many of these postural issues and imbalances come up because certain areas of the body just become weak and inactive. They become inactive partly due to a lot of sitting throughout the day, but more fundamentally, we lose control of them because we lose awareness of and connection to these tiny little muscles and structures throughout the body that are just really important for proper function. Just bringing my attention back to my body internally instead of constantly keeping my focus outside of myself was honestly the most important thing in getting me to where I am now. Just little things like playing games with myself to keep my breathing as light as possible in pickup games, or implementing super slow and controlled eccentrics into my lifts were honestly game changers that allowed me to solidify a stronger connection between my mind and my body. Meditation has also been huge in restoring that connection. At first, it was kind of like, what the hell am I doing just sitting here, But after a while of consistently sitting and aiming to focus on my breath, I started to get the hang of it and see the real purpose of it. For me, I found that meditation is kind of like a tool to distance yourself from life. Instead of being caught up with all the stuff going on around you, all these distractions, you can just zoom out and control your avatar like a video game. Or like you're lucid dreaming. When I started to apply that concept to movement, I started surprising myself with how light and fluid I felt and how pain I'd had for years had just started melting away. All right, I can make an hour-long video on this topic alone, but I want to be mindful of your time, so I'm going to move on. Area number 2 is the core. We all have a point through which our movement is anchored. For optimal body function and movement, that point sits within your pelvis, right above the perineum, and this allows us to originate movement from the hip instead of the spine and be more stable and grounded in our movement overall. What keeps our center anchored in position is the way that our core muscles activate around it. Now, a lot of athletes think that their core is crazy strong, and to an extent it probably is, but what's strong is the superficial core muscles, while the deeper core muscles get weaker over time. Now, we can speculate on the causes of why this happens, but it doesn't really matter. I think it's a chicken or the egg debate. What we have to understand is that the deepest core muscles are responsible for stabilizing our spine, giving structure to our organs, and just allowing us to move more efficiently. What's crazy though is that EMG studies, which basically test the intensity of muscle activation, show that conventional core exercises like your sit-ups, your crunches, your leg raises, whatever, they don't really target the deep core musculature. And I think it's because our systems get hardwired in a certain way, albeit less efficient. and we get stuck in these patterns over time. For me, getting my core to fire properly took some conscious activation and a new approach above all. I can give you exercises and progressions, but the real key lies in the principle and intention behind them. Imagine trying to move your belly button closer to your spine or moving your two pelvic bones closer together. This is going to allow you to activate the transversus abdominis, which is the deepest core muscle in the front of your torso. It wraps around you kind of like a corset or a girdle or a weightlifting belt. And you can also use your breathing to help you activate your entire deep core in synchrony. You're going to want to inhale deeply, then slowly blow air out of a small hole in your mouth as if you're trying to inflate a balloon. There's a difference between how you're gonna blow that balloon versus how you're gonna blow out candles on a birthday cake. So while you do this, feel the area beneath your belly button get sucked in. And as you focus on that balloon breath, you're gonna come deeper and deeper from within yourself and activate those deeper core muscles. A good position to practice this in is laying on your back with the soles of your feet flat on the ground. So as you practice the technique, you want to avoid a few common compensation patterns. Number one, you don't want your belly to bulge out. It should actually move inwards. You also don't want to press your lower back into the ground or tilt the pelvis like people commonly cue, because this is going to work the superficial abdominals instead of the deep ones. We want to maintain the spine's natural positioning, which is going to be a slight curve inwards in order to engage these muscles properly. Mastering this technique has been so powerful for me in helping me reverse years of low back pain and moving more efficiently overall to just let me tap into my athletic potential better. Now we're going to move on to the last point of focus, the feet. As I said before, movement originates from the core, but at the same time, the ground contact of your foot is what determines the movement of the rest of your body. So even slight dysfunction of the foot and ankle complex will just lead to impaired movement in the rest of your body. After years of jamming my feet into track spikes and basketball shoes, I realized that my feet had just become desensitized and locked up. I never really thought about the role that my feet were playing in the pain and the tightness around the rest of my body, but as I brought more attention to my feet, this concept just made more and more sense. I started deep diving into the function and anatomy of the feet, and one huge game changer was learning that the feet actually have 3 arches, not just one like most people think. So in restoring function to the feet, it's important to consider building all 3 of these up. The simplest thing that I did to start waking my feet up was just doing my warm-ups and sometimes part of my workout barefoot. I was honestly shocked by how quickly I was making progress doing this alone. My body started feeling more connected, my hips opened up, my movement just felt cleaner. It seemed like every step I took barefoot was restoring the sensation to my feet and just giving me a sturdier base to move from. One thing I will say is if you're like me and you like to double down on stuff that really works, be careful going too hard with the whole barefoot thing. First of all, you don't want to do too much too soon. I personally picked up a ton of mini injuries that could have been avoided if I just followed a more structured program to actually strengthen my feet over time. Second, you also don't want to avoid activities your body craves like sprinting or plyo because your feet can't handle it. It's okay to throw on the shoes if it means you'll be able to do certain activities properly. All right, so I hope you guys can take these principles and apply them to your training to get more out of yourself and build the bulletproof body you've always wanted. Just imagine what you can push yourself to do if those cranky knees aren't bothering you or if that low back pain isn't distracting you. You'll be able to spend more time doing the things that you actually love and enjoy without the endless rehab or therapy. If you want me to take these principles and build you a program that's built to accelerate you towards your specific performance goals and reverse your individual imbalances, then schedule a completely free strategy session with me. There's no pressure to make a decision. I'm not going to force your hand, but the goal is to figure out exactly what it is you need to take that next step to either get back to or surpass your previous peak shape and be able to perform however, whenever you want without being limited by pain or injury. You can schedule in the description below. From there, you'll fill out a simple form so that I can get to know you a bit, where you're coming from, and what's motivating you to even speak with me so that I can make sure to give you the best guidance. If I notice you're not in the best place to get started, whether that's financially or the nature of your problems, I'll make some other suggestions to you. My reputation is everything to me, so I'm only gonna make offers to people that I know I can help 1000%. And even if I don't make you an offer, this is gonna be some of the most valuable time you spent on your health and fitness this year because you're gonna get a custom strategy on exactly what to do next. So book your free strategy session at the link in the description, and I'll see you on the other side.